Hello Pisces, and welcome to your in-depth monthly horoscope for October. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you the standout key strands in your situation, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in much greater detail all the ins and outs that are particularly relevant to your sign. Now, the sign of Pisces is, of course, ruled by Jupiter and Neptune, so we need to be particularly mindful of what's going on with those two planets. Now, in September, Jupiter was in an opposition with Mercury in the parts of your horoscope to do with House 2, where Jupiter starts this month in retrograde, and Mercury in your 8th house, very much to do with longer term finance. And I think there may have been some costs in September that you're just coming to terms with as you come into this new month, and it may have been linked to travel or to do with your mode of transport, or perhaps to do with a contractual matter, but also opportunities. But as this month begins, Mercury has inverted into your opposite sign of Virgo. So that's very much to do with relationships, and it's in retrograde for the first 2 days of this month. But it is opposite Neptune, yes, your ruling planet. So there could be a little bit of hazy energy around the start of this month, particularly with Mars T-squaring these two influences. But Venus and the Sun are forging a very impressive alliance right through October, and that brings opportunity, particularly in terms of your longer term financial prospects. And around the 22nd, I need to share with you an event which occurs then, which could be really, really exciting. Now, later in the month, I think your appreciation of widening your horizons, perhaps traveling somewhere, meeting new and unusual people, is stimulated not least by the solar eclipse, which occurs on the 25th. But Jupiter, your ruler, does invert back into your sign on the 28th, and also Neptune is clashing with Mars all through this month. So much to share with you. Please stay with me for more. But if you would like to ascend above this zodiac broadcast and understand how more serious astrology can help you, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you a celestial roadmap that guides you for the rest of your life. But also in my special package, your year 2023 forecast, and you'll get the rest of this year free, plus 30% off. No two charts are the same, and totally individual to you, and can give you searing insights. Please see the link below for more. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for joining me. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. And if you're an ongoing viewer of my channel, thank you so much for your support. So Pisces, as you come into October, the clash between Mars in your sector of home and emotion, and Mars is, an assertive energy, but it can in the 4th house be rather reactive and a bit prickly. That's in a square with Neptune in your sign for the whole of the month. But right at the start of this month, the retreating Mercury in the sign of Virgo, your opposite sign, joins in with this interaction. I think the first week could see you being affected a lot by other people's energy. If you're feeling much more sensitive yourself, which I think is possible, you're not necessarily going to want to be getting so caught up in supporting people as you often do. And even if you're really fond of people, if they come to you with their problems or their issues, it's something that maybe on this occasion you just need to protect yourself a bit more from. So you may need to pivot a little bit around some of the demands other people put on you early in the month. But Mercury going forwards on the 2nd can help to untangle a few a few cross wires that may have crept in. But the square between Mars and Neptune is going to be providing a backdrop not just for this month but also in November and then again in March next year. And this is all caused by retrogrades. So for sure, Mars goes retrograde at the end of this month. Neptune is in retrograde as we come into this month. But Neptune is such an underappreciated energy. It gives you that sensory talent where you can just soak things up without even a conversation and really instinctively know what's going on. But even that skill could be slightly blunted at the start of this month, and you yourself physically may feel rather overwhelmed, particularly if you're someone who's got children or older parents. You've got a lot of demands, perhaps marshalling jobs as well. And those kind of constraints can seem to be quite cloying and demanding at the start of this month. But I think once Pluto goes direct in your sector of future planning and friendships and your highest hopes on the 8th, that is going to be helpful. There's also a full moon on the 9th in your second solar house. Now, that is very much about how we feel about ourselves, our self-worth, our value, but also about our everyday money. And of course, with the crunch that we're all encountering in terms of increased costs, this particular full moon is, quite loaded with meaning. However, because the Sun is aligning with Venus through the first 3 weeks of this month in your 8th house, the 8th house is about longer term finance. And Venus can be about money, of course, in its rulership of Taurus, but it can also be about relationships. So it may be that an association you have through a business interest, or shares you have if you work for a bigger corporation, or perhaps a property investment that you've been involved with, or perhaps your own entrepreneurial skills can see you starting to use your natural creativity and flair in order to manifest an improvement to your finances. And this particular full moon is actually embracing a grand air trine between Mars, the Sun and Venus, and Saturn. Now, Saturn is obviously very much about structure, and it's been in a tough location for you since the end of December 2020. And it is in retrograde at this point of the month, but it's sort of saying to you that past skills and experience and knowledge may have felt like, well, yes, I know all that, but how can I use them? But I think with the help of Mars and the creativity of the Sun and Venus together, you can magic up a new approach and dig deep into your emotional resources, but also those key experiences that you've accumulated over a long period of time. Also, Mercury is going to be moving back into your 8th house on the 10th. So if you need to dive deep to do your research or find even more within yourself in terms of your thinking, Mercury will definitely help you. Also in week 2, the Sun and Venus are forging a very stable link with Saturn. This is all deep stuff, to be honest. The 8th house, the 12th house, the 4th house, all deep, deep stuff. But this is something you're equipped to work with because yours is the 12th zodiac sign, and therefore you benefit from the journey of the Sun through the entire zodiac and have innate wisdom. It's just sometimes you don't necessarily believe that, or sometimes you are so self-sacrificing to others you can lose your identity. So boundaries are important to you, and with Neptune swirling around, it's hard to have boundaries. But I feel that the air energy of that grand air trine, which is so constructive, can help you to blend your intellect with your senses in a way which can be very constructive for you. Now the square between Mars and Neptune does peak on the 12th, and I should say that from the 2nd to the 12th, the square between Saturn in your 12th house of psychology and Uranus in your 3rd house of everyday interactions, but does rule the nervous system, that within 1 minute is almost exact. So I think your nervous energy, your physical vitality may be quite tender at the start of this month, but the potential that the Sun's combination with Venus gives you is enormous. So in a purely romantic sense, if you want to take a relationship that's been going well to the next level of commitment and closeness in a spiritual and emotional but also intimate way, the 8th house is sensational and it could bring enormous rewards. But of course the 8th house can, in a more prosaic way, be about money, as can Venus. So some kind of alliance based on goodwill that Venus can bring can also be productive for you. It's just that on the 19th, Pluto squares up the Sun and Venus, and if there is a weak point in a romantic relationship, a business tie, or your own methodology in terms of trying to re-engineer your financial situation is flawed in some way, it could be really revealed at that time. Yet by the 22nd, this can be a point of real breakthroughs, and something quite uniquely special can manifest at that time, because the Sun's merge with Venus really amplifies the benefits of Venus, which can attract, and the 8th house is so deep, so you can attract something that could be very, very very important, even potentially life-changing. But on the 23rd, Saturn does end its retrograde, and the square with Uranus, which has been causing such mischief through 21, at the start of this year as well, by the end of November, it's really beginning to peter out. So if you have been feeling absolutely run down, I think you can look forward to very, very soon, within 4 weeks of the end of this month, your energy will be improving, and that's something to really savour. But then also on the 23rd, the Sun and Venus glide into Scorpio, which of course shares your water element. And the 9th house is absolutely lovely. It's very much about discovery, adventure. It can be about the higher truth. If you're travelling, which the 9th house also governs because it influences borders, it would be a wonderful time to go somewhere which enriches your senses through cultural or historical influences, as well as enjoying, some sunshine and going in the sea. Those things can be very pleasing indeed. But if you have a chance to get away, go on a vacation, the last 10 days of this month can be particularly important. But because of the solar eclipse, which occurs on the 25th, and that binds together with Venus, the next 6 months could see you changing your life in some kind of radical way, embracing a new spontaneity, introducing much more openness to variety. And the more you shake your life up, the more enjoyable it can be. But particularly if you can do it enjoying the good things in life, or enjoying the company of someone you find really meaningful. So if you are wanting to bring someone into your world, this month could be a pivotal time. If it doesn't happen for you now, remember the influence of that solar eclipse will last through the next 5 months after this one. Now, also from the 25th to the 29th, Mercury is in quite a testing right angle with Pluto. So Mercury at this stage is in the 8th house of money, business, being very realistic about resources. The 11th house more idealistic, but Pluto can reveal things that are hidden. If there is any kind of jealousy around a friendship, do you know, it could be revealed this month. If someone is a bit too clingy and a bit rather possessive about your time, that also can be a bit of an issue with Pluto going forwards, but clashing with Venus, the Sun, and then latterly with Mercury. But then Mercury is going to switch on the 29th, but on the 28th, Jupiter returns to your sign, your traditional ruler. It was in an opposition with Mercury for 6 long weeks, up until the end of September, and it's possible that as Jupiter moves back into your sign, the cost of whatever Jupiter's relationship with Mercury was can be recovered somewhat, but also Jupiter reinforces Neptune. Neptune on its own at this point, Jupiter, despite the retrograde, could see you rethinking some things. Perhaps something you have tried financially, second house retrograde, needs a bit more tuning and research. But once Jupiter goes direct in your sign in November, on November the 23rd, you will really have a window of opportunity for the following month to really start to be much more progressive again. And by the end of the year, the financial situation can improve for you as Jupiter makes its way back into Aries, but this time not in retrograde. But the 30th also sees Mars go into retrograde, so we have Pluto and Saturn ending their retrogrades along with Mercury at the start of the month, but Mars does slam on the brakes. And so Mars is retrograde through to January the 12th next year in your 4th house. So if you are rethinking whether you should stick or twist in a residency that you're in at the present time, that thought process can deepen, but also it could take a little bit of the drive away that Mars has when it's in forward motion, and because Neptune's still applying its rather eroding and watery impact on what is a fiery planet, it may be that your energy just dips a bit as you come to the end of this month. But generally speaking, a wonderful opportunity awaits for you in October. If you could just deal with some of those complexities and challenges along the way and really use the relating energy of Venus to its best effect, something really, really meaningful can unfold for you.